Google Maps is free and so is Apple Maps, and they come built into your phone. So why would you even bother paying for a navigation app? That's the question we're going to look at in this video. My name is Peter and I like motorcycles and motorcycle travel. I started out to make a video about my travel plans to go up to British Columbia's Chilcotin Plateau. But as soon as I started to work on that video, I realized that the place to start was with the mapping apps. And in the process, I discovered an app that I'm going to use for my future travels. Which one? Stay tuned and find out. There are apps focused on-road riding and apps focused on off-road riding, and there's even one app that goes both ways. In this video, I'm going to focus on the on-road apps. I'll do a separate video on the off-road apps, and then one app's going to appear in both. Stay tuned to find out about that one. Some of you are going to ask, why bother paying for an app when you have a free app? And I'll tell you my philosophy about paying for apps. You see, you're paying for an app one way or another. You're either paying for an app by putting cash up front, or you're paying for an app by providing data, or you're paying for an app because it's stealing your data and doing something bad with it. So my philosophy is, I'm willing to pay for an app if it gives me value for money. So we got to look and see, how does this compare with Google, and is it worth forking out $50 to $100 a year for the benefits of the app? There's three things I'm looking at on these apps. The first is just going to an address. The second is planning a long distance trip. And the third is the functionality of the navigation. Okay, a word of warning. If you're going into unfamiliar territory and you're navigating by an app, you got to be careful. There's lots of stories about people who went down dirt roads and got stuck and didn't get out alive. So if you're going through a mountain pass or something and you think it's a shortcut, you got to be pretty careful. I always carry a satellite communication device with me, mostly because I just want to reassure my wife that I'm okay when I camp, but you never know when you might need it to get rescued from somewhere. So if you're going off grid, make sure you have a safety plan. As a baseline, let's look briefly at Google Maps. For navigating from A to B, it's simple and convenient. You can search an area for campgrounds or other venues that you're interested in, click on them, and allow Google to create a route from the beginning to the end of your day. If you don't like the route, you can add waypoints. You can just drag the route to change it to your preferred roads. One of the things I found really difficult about Google is importing and exporting maps to share with friends. You can do it, but you have to use My Maps and you have to have a Gmail account. However, Google doesn't have anything biker specific, so there's lots of reasons you might want to have more functions. As you navigate following Google, the visuals are really great. It shows you the speed limit on the road that you're on. It shows you the name of the road, the next turn you have coming up, and how far it is. And it also shows you one more step after that. It's got a pretty good map, of course, and then it's easy to follow. And the Google Voice is one of the most natural sounding voices of all the navigation apps.
Continue on Sunshine Coast Highway for 1 kilometer.
InRoute has an annual fee of $49.99 and comes with a 7-day free trial. On the computer, this is the only app that requires you to download a desktop app instead of using a web-based version that you can access through your browser. The advantage of it being an app on the desktop is that you have functions that are controlled through menu items instead of needing to click on different buttons. You wouldn't think that an app for delivery drivers would have anything for motorcyclists unless you were doing deliveries on a motorcycle, which I did briefly in the 80s. But this app can set route parameters to avoid highways. Routes can be changed by dropping a pin on the map or searching for an address. The strength of this app is that you can add waypoints and it will automatically put them in the best order, which is why it's great for delivery drivers or anyone going to multiple places when they might want to optimize their trip. It's super simple to find and navigate to an address. Type in the address or drop a pin. You can designate that pin as the start, end, or waypoint. When you start typing an address, the app shows auto-completion options, which is very convenient. Planning a day for my Utah trip was easy. You can start by dropping a pin or searching for a location. The database didn't have my preferred starting place, but it had a nearby item. It was able to find my proposed ending site and quickly drew a route. And then I was able to modify the route easily by dropping pins. InRoute doesn't have options to show campsites, gas stations, or other amenities. You can do all this with the free version. The paid version allows you to create longer routes, but importing and exporting is only limited to the paid version. The InRoute app has a nice clear map, And the step-by-step directions tell you the name of the road you're going to turn onto and the direction, but no arrows to help you with left and right. There are several options for voices. They're slightly robotic, but they still have the correct accent.
In 0.6 kilometers, turn right onto Reed Road.
So the benefits of InRoute over Google: you can conveniently add lots of waypoints, up to 150 in the paid version. You can choose twisty routing. It's easy to save your routes for later, and you can import and export if you have the paid version. Okay, Harley-Davidson. All the following apps have a social aspect. That means you can share rides with other users and see rides that they've posted. This is a free app, and you don't need to be a Harley-Davidson rider to use it. However, you won't forget that it's made by Harley-Davidson, as the default screen shows Harley-Davidson dealers and rallies along with the normal gas stations and restaurants. I'll probably get Harley-Davidson ads in my email for the rest of my life. You can plan a trip with multiple stops on the web version, but the phone app only allows A to B trips. It also records your ride, which you can share with other users of the app. The map has limited options to show points of interest, but you can always find a Harley dealer. The Harley-Davidson app is adequate for long-distance planning. As with InRoute, I had to use a nearby location to start the trip because it couldn't find the campsite I was planning to start at. The initial route took me up an interstate, so I needed to change the route, which you can do by adding a waypoint or dragging the route to change it. However, on my local trip planning, it did weird things, like making me pass my waypoint or go around the block. Also, this is the only app that doesn't use Apple Map or Mapbox as its source map. It uses something called Here, which, based on one example from my small town, seems to have some inaccuracies. On this map, it shows a road that goes right through a park, and that road doesn't exist, I can tell you. The app allows you to share rides with others, but I didn't see very many so far. If you want to instantly know where there's a Harley dealer, or you want to get to Harley meetups or rallies, you may want to use this app. Otherwise, I'd give it a miss. As a navigation app, it's equivalent to Google, showing your next turn and the name of the street, and giving you a hint about what's to follow. It shows you the speed limit, how long you've been riding, and when you expect to arrive at your destination. However, the voice is somewhat robotic, so I didn't like the voice very much.
After 300 meters, turn left onto North Road.
Advantages over Google? Well, you can always find a Harley dealer. You can share routes with other users, and it's the only app that allows you the option to avoid tunnels. Here's another free app by a manufacturer, and you don't need to own an Indian to use it. I think it's also used by Indian riders to connect to their bikes, but I couldn't test that out. Like the Harley-Davidson app, riders can share, but either because of the limited number of Indian riders or because the app may still be new, there were not very many routes published. For navigation, it will show the route, but it doesn't give turn-by-turn directions. Creating a long-distance route was problematic. After I created the initial route, when I tried to modify it, the app started to make weird routes for me, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get it to make a rational route to my destination. It is supposed to import GPX files, but I couldn't get that function to work either, and it wouldn't even import the GPX files that it had exported. Unless you need this app to communicate with your Indian motorcycle, I'd give it a skip. Its advantages over Google? Well, you can always find an Indian dealer, you can share routes with other users, and you can set it to avoid gravel. Okay, this app is called Calimoto, and things are really getting interesting. Calimoto is very popular in Europe and is growing here in North America. This is a $100 app, so it's one of the most expensive. But you can get a 7-day trial before you get charged, so it's great to try it out. And even the free version has good mapping. What you get for $100 is access to the twistiest option and satellite and terrain maps, as well as worldwide trip planning and downloadable maps. Downloadable maps means you can have a map set for an area when you're going to have no cell service, or where you haven't got a data plan. Calimoto is both a powerful mapping app and a social app. And as the name implies, Calimoto is specific for motorcyclists. It allows you 4 options to choose routes based on how direct or how many curvy roads there are in the route. Plus you can modify each step of the route based on these characteristics. That means you can also set it to get you as fast as possible to the beginning of the fun ride and then twisty afterward. For example, I want to spend most of my vacation next fall riding in Utah, so I can set it to get me from Vancouver to Boise, Idaho as quickly as possible, and then proceed to Utah on nice curvy roads. Moreover, it shows the curviness of the roads on the map, so you can easily choose interesting routes. There are plenty of rides posted by other riders, so you can find nice routes in unfamiliar places. When it comes to trip planning, for me, Calimoto shines. I can zero in on the area I'm riding in and see a selection of campsites and other items of interest. And the selection is quite good, so here it includes the dispersed camping that I'm planning to stay at. Once I've located the site I want to go to next, I just click on it and get a route. But I can see which roads are the fun ones, so it's easy to adjust my route to take advantage of those parameters. I can also see mountain passes and biker meetups, as well as designated biker motels. In the end, I found a trip that was slightly better than the one I had originally plotted between Google Maps and Gaia, and I was able to export it and import it into my Zumo. And if you're really interested in Calimoto, you can see a user called Teapot1 on YouTube for tutorials and a cool Scottish accent. The Calimoto interface is a lot like Google. It has a bright arrow telling you what direction you're going. It tells you your current speed, and it tells you how far to your next turn. However, it doesn't tell you the name of the road that you're going onto, and the voice is quite robotic.
Follow the road for 4 kilometers.
Calimoto advantages over Google. Well, you can see the twisties right on the map. You can plan different parts of the ride with different criteria. You get a great database of campsites and other amenities. You can share routes with other users, and you have offline mapping. Rever is another social app with nice turn-by-turn navigation. Rever really has a focus on social. Every time you navigate, it wants you to save it and share it. If you want to plan a ride on your desktop, you have to save it to share it with your phone, which means going through the steps where it prompts you to share it to the community. Rever's user base is heavily US-centric. Only the most well-known routes show up in Canada, but US routes abound. There are also routes in Europe, but none in Australia. The free version only allows A to B routing. For the adventure routes or twisties, you need the Pro version. For planning my Utah route using the twisties option, Rever did really well. The campsites listed included both of the sites I was planning to use. However, for my Chilcotin trip, even though the map shows the roads and can plot a route, none of the campsites are in the database, nor does the map show sufficient details to plan stops. Rever offers several options, including satellite maps and land use maps. Rever should be a strong contender for both on-road and adventure riding for people in the US, but I'd only consider it for on-road use in Canada. As a navigation app, Rever has a nice clear display. It shows you how long you've been going, how far you've been going, and what your current speed is. The voice is somewhat robotic, but not too bad.
In 600 meters, turn right onto Highway 101.
Advantage over Google: easily visualize great routes, great database of amenities in the US, share your routes with other users, stories are shared on social network, and you can let friends and families know your location. Okay, what have we learned? Well, we've learned that Google is the #1 app for a reason. It's got the best database, it gives you really good directions, and it's easy to use. Now, we've also learned that apps made by manufacturers are only good for people who ride their bikes. Everybody else probably don't want to get a free app from a manufacturer that you don't ride the bike of. Rever, which I'd never heard of before I started doing this, and Calimoto, those are two pretty good apps. Motorcycle specific, they give us lots of things that we need and make trip planning easy. Rever, the focus on social is just not good for me. It just makes it too clunky. Every time I want to do a ride, I have to ask if I'm going to save it to social. I don't. So which app am I paying for? It's Calimoto. But not for the reason that you might think, that I made a rational choice. No, I forgot to cancel before the free period ended. So anyways, that's all right. I'm pretty happy with Calimoto, and the more I use it, the more I see I'm getting value for money. So there's a pretty good chance I'm going to renew it next year, and I'm going to use it for my trip planning. What apps do you use? Do you use the same app for planning and for navigating? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see what happens to my trip to the Chilcotin and see if I come back from the wilderness, alone in the wilderness on a CRF 250L. So we'll see if that's a good idea or not. Anyways, see you later. Stick around. Watch another video. Thanks.